Hello and welcome everybody to GameGuru MAX live broadcast number 57, and boy and girl do I have a show for you today. Now, at long last I am able and I have the green light to show you a little bit of logic. That's right, people, you're gonna see some AI today. Obviously, it's not the final version that's going to be shipped when we finish the product. This is, as all broadcasts are, in development, sneak peeks at what we're getting up to. And I'm rather pleased because this is sort of a little bit of my own internal personal wish, is to show people stuff with the wires hanging out. Usually the broadcasts up to now have been relatively polished and we're showing you things that we're kind of happy with, and I've gone through a bit of polish and massage before we put it into the Friday build. This has the wires hanging out, but I still think it's super useful for you to see. But before I show you that, I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So I'm going to look at my chat in another window to see if everybody can. Thank you very much, Preben. We can hear you, capital letters. Brilliant. Well, let's go straight into it, shall we? I'm going to launch the software. So as I said, I'm going to show you a little bit of AI. There's lots of different things going on, but I would like to show you this because it's a new button that we've activated. If you remember this one, the shooter games, where it says this feature is not available. From this Friday, it will say this feature is not yet complete, but there will be stuff inside it and it's all very exciting and cool. So what I'm actually going to show you, well, let's just do it and then you'll get the idea. So I'm going to create a little scene for you, just put a little mountain in the background. I'm going to drop in a zombie. My goal for this Friday is to give you a working zombie, which does many things. So you're seeing it mid-week, so it doesn't do everything that I want him to do yet. But by Friday, yes, it will have lots of really cool things. Let me just shut down Steam. So this is our zombie. Minding zombies is eating the floor. But this new button, Shooter Games, gives you some additional buttons you can drag in. Don't worry about these for now. The only one I want to show you is add flag. So I can drop in a flag, another flag, 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 and flag. So this is it's a different mode than the object mode. This is about logic. This allows you to create logic. And as I promised all along, I do not want to force everyone into the route of scripting. It's an easy way out, super powerful. But a lot of people don't get it. They don't want to do it. They just want to create the things they want to create, but they don't want to spend years and years learning how to program. Well, the approach for GameGuru MAX is we're going to turn all of the things you might want to do in the logical landscape into a way to do it visually. So as you can see, I've dropped in these flags. Everyone understands what a flag is. You drop it into the ground. There you go. But now what I can do, I can connect up these flags and connect that to that one, connect that to that one to that. And now I've created a chain of flags all interconnected. And I can connect my zombie, like so, to here. And you notice these little blue icons at the top. These will change. These are just internal debug objects. But these little blue blobs, when you click it, it gives you options based on the types that you've connected up. You connected a character to a flag, so there's certain options you can have, such as reverse at the end of the path. You can loop around to the beginning, you can follow it once and then stop, or it just chooses any random flag, any connected random flag, and the zombie will just move between them. By default, it's reverse your direction at the end, which is going to go for. And now I'm going to run this and show you what happens. As you might imagine, you've not done any scripting yet. I've left all these debug objects on, super useful for debugging, which I'm doing right now. And without any scripting, I've literally selected a character, created a path, and by default, the character is going to follow the path. But I got to decide the shape of that path. Anyone who's a GameGuru Classic user will notice, well, you've changed the path creation system. Very good reason for that, because essentially, when you used to do paths, you would actually draw out the individual lines of where characters are going to walk. But if you think about it, you know, you kind of want that to be the navigation system. So instead of drawing out a path, you just provide a destination, and the character uses navigation to actually get there. Round obstacles or through narrow passageways. You just place your destination and it gets you there. So in terms of navigation, you'll notice, I'm just going to go up to this, the reason I put this mountain here is if I show you this, you see the gap, there's a sort of a yellowy floor, and then there's like a gap where you can see the real coloured floor and then the mountain. That's actually what's called a nav mesh. It's actually been calculated to tell characters where they can walk. And this red thing that you see here, that's basically cone of sight. So we can see that that character can see anything within that red cone. So you can see that's the perimeter, that's as far as that zombie can see in this particular instance, and it follows the direction of the zombie all the way around. So all of these debug options will be basically off by default, but you can switch them on once we provide some extra ticky boxes for that. So you don't have to overload your scene, you just switch on the bit that you're interested in to do your debugging. You can see that little line being projected out. That is the current position of your character to its intended destination. As you can see, it's actually plotted out a position to actually go there. Now it's plotting back the way it came to the position of that flag. Then it will plot to the next one. And if there was an obstacle between those two flags, the nav mesh would figure it out. It would work its way round so it's not walking through objects. So that's a path, super simple, no scripting required so far. Great. So there's different kinds of behaviors, as you may know. If you go into the object, you've got behaviors, you select behaviors, you've got all the different behaviors you can do. You can patrol, which you've just seen, walking away, standing around, just wandering around. You can speak with the player gets close. It can actually home in on you as well. But the one I've been working on is zombie attack. So this is my in-progress logic, which lets this zombie do many things, including getting hurt, attacking, etc. So just change the behaviour. I'm going to run it again because I want to show you perhaps the coolest thing I've ever done in quite a while. So there's our zombie, minding his own business, eating. I just nudged a bit closer and he got up. And now he's walking towards me, right? If I go into the behaviour choices, I see this. Like that. I bet you're thinking, what is this, Lee? Well, actually what it is, it's a visualisation of the logic of this zombie. As you can see now, it's in what's called a chasing state, and it's running through these 4 instructions and then looping back to that one. So it's being asked to loop a walk, it's being asked to face the target, which in this case is the player. If the target is within 65 units, go to attacking. Otherwise, go back up to the top and rinse and repeat. As soon as it gets within 65 units, let's see what happens. Right, he starts attacking me. Like so. As you can see here in the attacking state, you've now got this. As you see, it's still work in progress. I'm going to finesse these lines a little bit more so they never really overlap the instruction blocks. But it's pretty simple. It generates a random number between 1 and 2. It's like a roll of a dice. 50-50 chance of going this way or that way, which is a left-handed attack or a right-handed attack. Waits for the end of the animation. When it gets to the end of the animation, it will test whether the player is still within range. If he is, you can stay in the attacking state. Otherwise, you can actually go to back to chasing. If the players run off, you want to chase them. All the other times, you want to just face the target. So effectively, I have reduced the game logic into very high-level instruction blocks. And unlike scripting, where you can have syntax errors and get it wrong, in this particular case, it is impossible to have a compile error or a syntax error. Every logic that you add in will be performed fully. Now, I'm not saying that the logic you string together is correct. That's really up to you. But there is no way of actually breaking the system. You'll always be able to create the sequence of logic that you want. And it's in the form of a flowchart. If you're not familiar with flowcharts, they're super simple. You have actions, then you might have decision trees, whether something's true or false, and then you run down that particular path, and then you find your way back up to the top again, and you have a nice loop, which will have loops within loops within loops, but you'll find all that fun out later on. I must mention as well, this is what's called a developer mode tool. We do not expect the majority of people to jump into here and start creating logic. The reason is we will already provide all the behaviors that you might want for a typical first-person shooter game. So you will never need to go into here. But some people will want to create and craft their own logic, and now we've made it such that you don't have to script. You can literally add these things together. Now you've probably guessed, because you see those little yellow flashy things, not only is it a nice way to visualize your logic, it's a debugger. You can actually see which state is being fired at any particular time. Enormously useful when you're creating logic, because it was always kind of guesswork and fudging and doing little bits of debug variables. Now you can literally see the instruction go through your program. You know exactly where it is at any time. But it gets better than that. This is also live editing. I don't need to leave the game now in order to keep adding to the logic of my game. For example, if we move away, it's going to start chasing again, so you can see it's in the chasing state. Going to move towards me, but if you look at these instructions, there's never a point where he goes back to idle. You see, he's basically targets within, then go and attack. Otherwise, just keep following, keep walking towards the player and facing the target, no matter how far away I go. Let's say we didn't want that. So what we can do is get rid of this instruction. He'll keep following. We'll keep following the last logic he had until we update this. So what I'm going to say is, if you're within, attack. Otherwise, do another test. If your target is beyond, say, 600 units, then I want to go to the idle state. Dink. So now if I get further than that, it goes to the idle state. Failing that, you just want to repeat the walk system. And if we go to the bottom, you'll see there's update behavior. So now, when I move away, you see it's actually in the chasing state, but watch what happens if I get really far away. See? After 600, it says go to idle state. It's now in the idle state. And the condition within the idle state is if target is within 600, go back to chasing. So you're in chasing, you're not in chasing. And you see, never had to script anything, never even had to leave the level. All I had to do was click that button there, update behaviors. Now, this is going to get a lot bigger for a fully functional zombie, which is why you can collapse these states down to only when you need it. I'm going to put a few extra debug things in. So let's say you are in, right now you're in chasing state, a little highlighter here, just to show you that you are in the chasing state, in case you just, oh, what should the 10 states I want? You can just open that up and you're instantly inside the chasing state. Or maybe it could auto collapse as well, so only one state can ever be open at any one time, just for rapid movement between your logics. So that's what I wanted to show. So I was really excited to reveal the idea that not only can you now create your logic in a non-scripting way, you can see it in live debugging mode, and you can then live edit it whilst you are working on your logic. Super useful if you've got a complicated logic system and you can't figure out what's going on, and you want to build it in as you go, so you can sort of almost pause your character, do some editing work, and let them carry on. And there's also the reset behavior. So if I come further back here and he goes into his idle, if I reset him, it goes back into the feeding one, if you remember the one right at the beginning. See? So as soon as you get close enough that he hears a noise, it runs the feeding get up animation, and then switches to his idle state, then because you're near, it goes to the chasing state. So that's the logic system so far. As I said, it's a developer mode feature, don't be frightened by it, but what it does mean is we are now creating all the logic, all the different kinds of logic, zombie logic, soldier logic. This tool is now super useful in accelerating the productivity of all that different kind of logic. No more guesswork, no more bouncing around scripts until it suddenly works, but you'll be able to completely interrogate what's going on with the logic system. Super useful for us as developers, but also be super useful for when you get your hands on GameGuru MAX and you might want to create your own logic down the road or in the future. So I hope you liked that and the direction we have taken in order for you to create your different logic. In the shooter games section, just to introduce these, you also have, it's basically shortcuts to all the kind of things you might want in your shooter game. So you can click this and it will give you a shortcut to all the guns in the library, shortcut to the ammo, shortcut to enemies, and shortcut to allies. Yes, indeed, you're also able to have allies, enemies, and neutral characters as well, for those who were curious. Again, you don't have to worry about scripting, you just select the one you want. If you select an enemy, you've also got factions, so you can choose different factions as well. All this doesn't work at the moment, but as I said, now we've got a great system to create the logic in a visual way. These things can come thick and fast. And the cherry on top, for the people who really are excited for the developer mode stuff, I'll just show you this script. Sorry for showing you script, but this is basically the interpreter. This allows us to sort of update the engine whilst the game is still running, which is pretty cool. But what's even better is we've got these conditions and actions. Whilst it's running, you can add a condition or an action and save this. And this file is then reparsed. So the next time you go in and select an instruction block with a condition and action, that condition is immediately available. You see, you don't have to. What I'm basically saying is it's not hard coded. All of this is standard Lua script, makes it super flexible for us to keep adding conditions and actions as required. So by the end of our work, in order to create the soldiers, all of the behaviors for different objects like switches, things like that, and of course our friendly neighborhood zombie, we'll have pretty much all the conditions and actions that we feel we need. But as I said, it's now super easy to expand those conditions and action lists as we need them. So I'm going to look at the chat. I know I've been talking a lot. I already don't have to look at the clock. I know I've gone over the 15 minutes. But this was an episode I really wanted to. I was waiting to show you this for ages. Now I can. And on Friday you will get to play with the zombie. You'll get to play with the ability to create your own behaviours. And let me just quickly show you how you do that. So you see the ad. You have a new thing called, sorry, you go into behaviours, So click on a behaviour. You've now got create new behaviour. So you can select that. It will actually create a file for you, give you a starting icon. And then you can go and select, well actually all you'd have to do then is go into test game and start creating your visual scripting if you wanted to do that. So yeah, that's how you create your brand new behavior. So as I said before, let's get back to the questions because I know you've got them. Let's probably add a couple of minutes to the clock as well so we can get through them. Looking for a question mark. Question marks will help me find your questions quicker. First one, it looks like it's from Martin Oliver. The question is, will the new DLC release tomorrow? Yes, just not to confuse anyone, this is a GameGuru Classic DLC. We've not released DLC in a few weeks or months, I can't recall. But this is a brand new one and it's massive. So definitely check out the news this week on a brand new GameGuru Classic DLC. I will say no more, I'll leave it for a surprise. Here's another question. Isn't this like waypoints? It's exactly like waypoints. Choosing a series of points in your level and you can decide the relationship between those points and the relationship of every other object with one or more of those points. Perfectly like waypoints. So looking for, lots of question marks here. This is from Dennis Balagna. Do we know how the level loading time in Max compares to sometimes atrocious GG Classic level loading times? Well, obviously, the amount of stuff in your level would require that the loading times are longer. But the difference between Max and Classic, it's basically night and day. A lot of the stuff in Max has already been calculated when you're doing the editing, so there's not actually that much prep work to do before you jump into the test level. So there isn't a lot of waiting time. If you mean like loading times for the standalone, the game that you finally output and you give to your friends or sell, those medias will be compressed. So, but if it's a big level with lots of stuff, then there's lots of loading. It'll take longer. That's quite natural. So hopefully that answers 2 possible answers to that question. Looking for another question mark from the chat. We can find one from CEO of Eldia. Question: can we resize the terrain to make it smaller for corridor shooters? Yeah, you can actually make the terrain area huge or relatively small, or you can switch it off and just have the grid. Sounds like you're wanting to do interior games. You can do that too, and you don't really need the terrain, so you can just switch the terrain off. In which case, the size of your game is how big your corridors and rooms and stuff are. Very coolly, love it. Thank you very much, Loretta. Another question. This is from Alican Yildrim. Question: hey Lee, is there something wrong with the environment effect? Simulated sky cloud height and speed not working? Question mark. Using latest version. Still working on that. Environmental effects, that's something we're totally going to rewrite in the future for this release. Sorry, for the release of the product, not for this Friday's release. And we're still working and improving on skies, as well as incorporating it and making it great with the terrain and also water and other things. So all these things are being worked on in the background. I think you will like what we've been working on when we release it, but we're not quite ready to show that yet. We'll probably be showing AI for a while and then hit you with the new terrain system, which I think you're going to love. Here's a question from 3Com. Will we have those sort of WP at hill level? Will we have those sort of waypoints at hill level? Yeah, you could put flags anywhere. You could put them on hills, you can put them upside of hills, you can put them on roofs, you can put them inside buildings. Put them wherever you want your character to get to. And the navigation system, which I'm using something called Recast Detour, will get you there. So it'll figure out where the steps are, where the slopes are, where the ramps are, and it will get your character to that destination. It's a pretty cool system. Here's another question. No, is that no question? I dream of strategic zombie. Thanks very much for that. Here's a question. This is from Askhat. When add VR functions in GG Max? We're not touching VR until we've completely done non-VR and all the logic and all the terrain and all the weather effects, etc, etc. We want to get all that absolutely right, because then we can then spin off and adapt all of that to work well in VR. We already have VR technology. We've been working on it for years, but we understand it's important to get a great looking, a great playing game before we switch over to work on all the VR aspects. So nothing to show on that right now. Looking for another question. Is he able to contaminate civilian? Well, you know, the zombie I'm going to create will not contaminate anything. He'll basically try and eat your brains, and you got to find a weapon and shoot the zombie dead. And that's basically the logic for my zombie. It'll do lots of other cool things, but that's generally the formula for my zombie. But there's nothing to stop you creating and adapting without scripting, using the visual logic creation system to create a scenario where one zombie can infect another zombie, which could affect a player, which then has some disease and starts losing health. All of this can be done without scripting. And you can't really make that kind of claim every day. Looking for another question. This one is from Gustav Jensen. Hello, if you don't have it yet. Can you make it so we can change the sound when the player is low? It's very annoying and loud. Can you guys fix it? When the player is low. Oh, you mean the health thing from GameGuru Classic? Yeah, we're rewriting all that. We're going to be looking at modern games and finding out what's appropriate, and we're going to find a nice version and put that one in. So yeah, not really fix it, completely replace it. That'd be a closer thing. So looking at the clock, I absolutely do not want to exceed the 30-minute mark. I think there's probably an unwritten law about that. So we got 6 minutes left. So as is my custom, and thank you for all the questions, it's great. I'm going to pick 2 questions from someone who hasn't asked a question before, and the rest I will answer in the GameGuru forums along with a recording of this broadcast. So let's see who's lucky enough to have not asked a question yet. The first of the 2 questions is the real Sumo. Will the enemy return to original path when the visual script is finished? Visual script is finished. Well, yeah, if the character is given a patrol behavior, they'll literally patrol all the time. The zombie who's like chasing you halfway across the map will also have a distance beyond which they're uncomfortable, and they'll literally at that point just turn around and head back for home. That's going to be built into my zombie, and also to the soldier logic that will be doing after the zombie. So that actually is already on our list, and that'll be included. So yeah, you'll have that. Okay, who's got the next question? Okay, Ben Harrison threw in the questions question marks as a secondary line, but that's fine. I still can't get GameGuru to update. Keep saying failed to parse. When you gonna release our version? We release versions every Friday. Have been doing Friday builds since January, so we always release them on Friday. That error is familiar to me, and the solution is to uninstall everything, make sure you make all your backups, and then grab the new Tiny installer. There's a Tiny installer file that you would have used the first time round. Use it again. There's a newer updater in that Tiny installer, and it will go through that process again of asking you for your TGC account login details, which you'll only have to do once, and then you'll download the software, and then it'll be on your computer, and it should be fine. If you still see it, it's because your login data that's stored in the app data folder has been corrupted, and it just needs to, the file needs to be deleted, and then you can go through that process again. There's details on the GameGuru forums on how to find and delete that file, but certainly post that question in the GameGuru thread that accompanies this live broadcast, and I will give you the information again. It's pretty straightforward, and you shouldn't see that error anymore, so it's definitely solvable. We ran a poll. Which game camera view do you prefer to play? First person 60%, third person 40%. Well, that's good news, because we're only focusing on the first person for GameGuru MAX. So at least the majority prefer the game mode that we've chosen for the release of GameGuru MAX. So thanks for all your questions, and thanks for keep those questions coming. We could be here all day, couldn't we? I will absolutely answer all the rest of the questions, even the ones I skipped a couple of minutes ago, and put them in the GameGuru forum so everyone can read a thorough and spell-corrected answer from me. As always, if you like what you see and you want to play with builds that you're seeing in the Wednesday's broadcast, we release them every Friday, but only to our pre-order users. And right now we're running a discount of 25% for anyone who goes for the pre-order to help us during our development. So a big thank you for those who joined us so far. And the pre-order discount is there for anyone who's now seeing the end of the road. Yes, we are working on AI. Yes, we're completely replacing the terrain system, and both are going to be amazing. So I hope you like what you saw. I will be back next Wednesday at 4 p.m. British summertime. Not that it looks pretty summertime out there with all the rain and clouds. And I hope to bring you more juicy things relating to AI, and I hope you enjoy playing around with the new visual debugging and live editing system come Friday evening. So until next Wednesday, thanks very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.